I'm used to sitting on a certain side and you're not there now. I'm just like, I don't
So,
hey, money,
so
come back to me.
Weekend Trav, we're here, episode 79 of Weighing In with Travis Hartman. I'm B Money, the producer. That over there is Weekend Trav, sitting on his side of the seats of the table, missing me from afar.
I can't take B Money's seat. I just can't do it.
That's fair. You don't want to sit in that seat. You don't know what goes on in that seat.
That's a hot seat.
It's the hot seat. So we want to say thank you so much to our subscribers, our followers, everyone that likes the content, everyone that suggests things to talk about. But of course, today we're going to be talking a little bit about Canelo Alvarez, Dmitry Bivol, as that fight was over the weekend Trav. And then we're going to move on to some other stuff coming up this weekend, including the one, the only Floyd Mayweather, Money Mayweather, in an exhibition bout. We'll get into that in a few. There it is.
Floyd Money Mayweather.
There it is. But before we do, special thanks to our media partners, IF Enterprises, TH Boxing. You see that logo in the hat there by the Hooten Young bottle, and Gulfstream Financial. You see it on my shirt. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and Weekend Trav.
It's good to be back.
It's good to see you. So let's chat a little bit. Let's talk about the big fight. We see it's always a big fight when Canelo's on the card, when Canelo fights, which is several times a year at this point. So give me the rundown here, Weekend Trav. It was Canelo Alvarez taking on Dmitry Bivol this past Saturday, and Canelo Alvarez moving up in weight to face Bivol. So tell us about the fight. Tell us what you saw.
Yeah, this was Canelo moving up to light heavyweight. And I didn't know this until I got into a little spat with some Twitter warriors, that when Canelo fought Kovalev at light heavyweight, that was actually for a light heavyweight world title. So Canelo's already won a world title at light heavyweight. And then he went back down to super middleweight, unified the titles. And then now last weekend, Cinco de Mayo weekend, he went back up to challenge Bivol for the light heavyweight championship of the world. The reason I brought that up is because a lot of people think the best light heavyweights in the world are Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev, not Kovalev. So that's why even when he beat Kovalev, most people at the time didn't recognize Kovalev as the legit world champion. So that's why I brought that up. But Canelo is up to his usual daring to be great. Okay. He came up short.
Right.
He dared to be great. I did, as I've been posting on our Weighing In with Travis Hartman Instagram page, I've been posting little excerpts from our previous episode 78 where we talked. I did pick Canelo to win. I will come out and say that right away.
We both did. Did.
I thought it was going to go the distance for sure. I didn't think it was going to be a knockout, and it did go the distance. But I was very adamant on, everybody kept saying how Bivol was not going to be a tough fight. I was very adamant the fact that Bivol was a dangerous opponent. And I named a couple reasons, B-Money, and B-Money wasn't having it. B-Money was like, I'm still not excited, Travis. I just don't want to watch this fight. I'm not excited about it. Well, guess what? It turned out to be pretty exciting, because actually it was only exciting, I think, probably because Canelo lost, right? Like, he ended up losing a 12-round unanimous decision.
Yep.
All three judges scored at the exact same. And I think Bivol deserves a lot of credit, first of all. I want to put that out there. Bivol won a 12-round unanimous decision against arguably the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Bivol was undefeated, and he continued his undefeated streak. He retained his title. So that happened over the weekend on DAZN in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. Now, what did I think about Canelo's performance? He looked flat. He looked like his punches didn't have a lot of pop on them. He looked fairly like Canelo the first 4 or 5 rounds. And then I noticed, and I was in some group messages with some people, and I noticed the fact that about the 8th or 9th, I was like, Canelo looks tired. So there's 2 reasons that could be. One is he did fight a bigger guy, and maybe his punches weren't having the same effect as it had before. So Canelo had to exert a lot more energy now, because he knew that those punches weren't ever hurting Bivol. So maybe he was punching harder, trying a lot harder, took a lot more out of him. But there's also this little theory running around that even Joe Rogan has talked about. Canelo, B-Money, went vegan before this fight. So there's a lot of speculation about the fact that maybe he lost his energy, maybe he lost that steam in the last round because he was vegan. I don't know any truth to it. I mean, I do know that Canelo did say that he did go vegan. So I do know that that's pretty verified. He did go vegan. I'm just saying, I don't know if it's true or not, that's what slowed him down.
Well, maybe he didn't want to get caught with that street taco meat this time around on this fight like he did a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, that was 2 or 3 years ago before Triple G. He tested positive for steroids for some tainted beef. But yeah, B-Money's right. What do you think, though, B-Money? Do you think that had more to do with it, or did it have more to do with it, the fact that Bivol came and showed up?
I think it's a kind of a mixture of everything, Weekend Trav. I think now I'm no dietitian by any means, but I think if you're going to change your dietary habits in between fights like that and move up in weight at the same time, there's going to be a definite diminishing factor for you on strength. You could obviously tell the size difference between the two of them, which isn't uncommon. Canelo fights guys that are taller than him all the time.
Alan Smith, Sergey Kovalev, they were all
yeah, but you're absolutely correct. There just was something missing, and maybe it goes back to what I mentioned last week when we were talking about it. Is anyone excited about it? Is anyone excited about this fight other than the fact that it's Canelo Alvarez fighting? And maybe that's a problem for him and his camp. There just wasn't enough to get really amped up about other than the payday. And so if you're walking into the ring like that, what all are you fighting for exactly? I appreciate his comments after the fact. As any fighter would in a decision fight, they say that they think they won the fight, fine. But him to go out and say, listen, I'm doing what other fighters don't want to do because they don't want to risk a loss. I'm going to continue to do it. So I respect the hell out of that. And but going back to your original question, I think, yes, if the diet stuff is true, then that is a definite performance inhibitor. Fighting someone that's bigger weight, I don't know, because he doesn't have to worry about a cut or anything like that, or maybe he did a little bit, but not much. And Dmitry Bivol said, I think today or yesterday, that, hey, you know what? Canelo is naturally at what is it? Is it super middleweight? And he says, actually, I feel better at that weight too. So how about next time we fight in a rematch? How about I drop down a weight and we actually go for those belts? So I don't know if if the size difference is really what matters. I was told that size doesn't matter. Oh, well, maybe it's size does. I don't know. I don't know. And sometimes I think my spouse might just be being nice to me. I don't know. So, but I think ultimately, if it's diet, if it's what's true that he may have gone the vegan way, then that's got to be tough. It's got to be tough, especially 12 rounds of two guys really going at it back and forth. It wasn't a lazy, sloppy fight, but you could tell that there was a diminishing energy level that was uncommon for him. I got it wildly wrong, and probably just because I didn't know enough. I went in there just like a stupid fool, thinking Canelo is Canelo, and I don't know enough about Bivol. And I said something silly like 6th or 7th round Canelo. It was at 8th.
You gave him at least a little bit.
Dumb. But here's what I will say, Weekend Trav, and I could show my sports book if I really want to screenshot it. I sent it to you.
I know.
I gamble with my brain. I don't gamble with my heart, and I put money on Bivol to win, and lo and behold, it paid out pretty decently. So I was pretty happy about that. Your buddy, BJ, kind of convinced me to finally click the button to submit that bet.
I know all my stuff that I was trying to tell you didn't convince you, but BJ.
No, but BJ Flores, now he has been hanging his hat a lot on him being right about that, though in several fights prior, he's been wrong on some bets. So, yeah. But he is. I mean, he's been all over social media. Yeah, man, I was right about this, and everyone giving him love, and he's screenshot all this stuff. I'm like, dude, you were kind of wrong on a lot of fights this year too, but we don't hear about that.
And listen, you got to highlight it when you win, because
yeah,
it's boxing's tough. Like, it's really tough. The predictions are really tough. Like, I get them wrong sometimes too, and it's really tough. So when you really get one right, you better send it home, because it deserves to be talked about. But I just want to touch a little bit on, I always had this thought about Canelo, that Canelo can be out hustled in a fight, because he's fought a lot of fights early where he gets beat 3, 4, 5 rounds, and he just turns it on in the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th round and ends up stopping people. The more weight he's put on, the more power he's put on. So I always knew in the back of my head that could happen. And I just, to be honest, two things: my fandom of Canelo Alvarez over the past 2 years, and the fact that I didn't have the balls to pick Bivol, it came into play because I'm really a big fan of Canelo. And I watched back our episode 78, and I watched it back and I was like, Travis, like everything that I said was in favor of picking Bivol, but yet I didn't pick Bivol. I'm like, grow some balls, Weekend Trav. Actually go through with what you're saying and pick it, because everything I said about Bivol was the reason why that I thought he could beat Canelo, because he was good. He has beat some top guys, and but I didn't have the balls to pick it because we all know that Canelo is great though. Like he is great, but eventually it doesn't matter. Boxing's that one-on-one sport where you can't always win. You just period. It's a one-on-one sport. You have an off day, you have a so-so day, you're going to lose. However, we don't need to talk about him just yet, but the only guy to ever do that is Floyd Mayweather.
Right.
50-0.
So it's interesting, and we'll get to him in a minute, but let's kind of switch gears. Still talking Canelo. Once again, congratulations, Dmitry Bivol. You earned that 20-0 now, and then now a rematch. I think they both want the rematch, but we'll see. I don't know if it puts the Triple G fight in jeopardy a bit. Maybe it does for the end of this year. Probably does, depending on if this rematch clause goes through. But let's talk real briefly here on the pound for pound discussion, because that's been kind of one of those topics after this fight. I know Terrence Crawford, Bud Crawford's been in there saying, hey, what do you guys think now? And you made an excellent point on social media. So maybe run through that conversation about the pound for pound now that Canelo has a second loss on his record.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about the pound for pound conversation, and the pound for pound conversation, what it really means is a guy, even though he could be a smaller guy, if he was bigger, would he still be able to compete based on his skill level with other people? So that's the pound for pound conversation. So a guy could be 126 pounds and be the pound for pound best because experts look at him as in, even though this guy's only 126 pounds, if that exact guy moved up to 200 pounds, would he still be able to beat these guys, right? So that's the pound for pound conversation. So people are going to think I'm crazy, but I think Canelo's still pound for pound number one because he went up in weight. He went up and fought a legit light heavyweight who was already world champion. So if you go by the pound for pound reasoning, this guy, he's done it, but he reached a little too far maybe this time, or maybe something happened. I know that he lost, but I love Terrence Crawford. You know that. I fought the guy, so that's why I want him to win, because it makes my resume better. But he hasn't fought. I know Errol Spence fought. I know they have Usyk out there and all those guys, but I still haven't seen another guy and a performance, in my opinion, that leapfrogs Canelo, even though he just lost.
Well, you made your points online had something to do with body of work. When you look at the past couple of years, how many times has Canelo fought versus some of these other guys in the conversation?
I'll give you that
combined. Stat. Right. So that's really so I don't know if you have that stat in front of you or not.
I do. So the amount of fights since December of 2020, Canelo, 5. The amount of fights combined for Usyk, Crawford, Inoue, and Spence, 7.
Yeah.
So we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4 guys have only fought a total of 7 times in 2 years. We have one guy who has fought 5 times in 2 years.
Across different weight classes. He talks the talk, he walks the walk, and the body of work speaks for itself. So I think you saying, hey, he's still, to me, pound for pound best in the world, I don't think that's a big leap. I think just ultimately, if people are just going to look at recent wins and losses as the qualifying factor, I don't think that's accurate. I think you're pretty accurate with your assessment. Now we will see when Terrence Crawford steps in the ring next, they're trying to get that Errol Spence fight put together, maybe. But once again, we've been talking about that since this podcast started. So we'll see what happens. But yes, Canelo Alvarez in Weekend Trav's book is still pound for pound the best in the world because he is willing to move up in weight and put on a great performance, but also his body of work collectively speaks volumes. Now, Weekend Trav, let's switch gears now to the first guy that beat Canelo in the pros, and that is Floyd Money Mayweather. This weekend, he's taking on, I think, his old training partner, Donmoore, in an exhibition. Now, get this, exhibition fight on a helipad in Dubai in front of, hold on, 20 spectators, all with unique NFT tickets, and which cost a hefty price as well. I can't remember. I don't know.
VIP NFT, and us old guys, I don't even really know what the hell that means.
Non-fungible token, Weekend Trav. I don't want to get to that conversation, but
I just understand it.
The point being is that I don't know how much those things run for, and we were trying to find the actual dollar value or crypto value for each of those tickets, but it was a pretty penny, okay? Because this is a big money fight for Money Mayweather. I think Donmoore is making a little money too, but not nearly as much. So we got Floyd Mayweather back in action. Let's talk a little bit about that. Last time we saw him, he was taking on Logan Paul.
I mean, listen, to be fair, his nickname is correct, Money Mayweather. The guy knows how to make money. The guy's been retired for what, 2 or 3 years now, and he's still making tons of money. So he honestly, I don't know how much he's making. And to be fair, both of us kind of discussed this off air. Who knows what's going on over there? It's Dubai. So who knows what he's really making? Who knows what's really going to come home with him? I could see him making upwards of 100 million plus, but he might even say more, but whatever's on paper is probably going to be nothing close to that, because he doesn't want to pay taxes on that.
Oh, yeah, that money might stay over there, I think. I don't think that's coming back to the U.S.
This digital currency with the NFTs and all that stuff, and like, who knows?
I'm pretty sure each of those tickets was bought with Ethereum, which has come down in value quite a bit over the last week or two anyways. But 20 fans, not including any sort of pay-per-view sales and all that good stuff, but he is doing what he does. It's hard to have an opinion because I don't know enough about Donmoore, and I think you looked some stuff up on BoxRec for him. What is he?
I know enough about him.
What is he? Go ahead.
18-0 as a professional boxer, and has never beaten a guy with a winning record. 18 pro fights. Just to give you guys reference, he's 18-0 as a professional boxer, never lost, but never fought a guy with a winning record. My 6th pro fight, I fought a 17-0 Chavez Jr., my 5th pro fight. This guy's 18-0 and has never fought a guy who's got a winning record. And now he's fighting Floyd Mayweather. So I say that with a lot of jealousy and envy.
Yeah. I mean,
so I'm not.
It sounds like the way to do it to me.
Exactly. That's why I want people to realize I'm not hating on the guy. Get your money, brother. You figured out how to do that. I don't know how you figured out how to do that. Be 18-0. First of all, why would you want to be 18-0 and never step up? I don't know that. But maybe I do know now, because he's fighting Floyd Mayweather in an exhibition in Dubai on a helipad. Like, what? Like, good for him. So, again, I'm not hating on the guy, but you wanted me to keep it real. He's 18-0 and he's never faced a guy with a winning record. So take from that what you will. Meaning, Mayweather did a safe exhibition.
Yeah, which he tends to do, it seems like, often, but good for him. And we all talk about it and we all watch it. So, can't really hate on it, right? What else weekend drove? Other stuff coming up this weekend?
I don't, but to be fair, I don't think I'm going to watch this. It's a $19. It's a $19.99 live stream that they're charging. I promise you this time, I'm a huge boxing guy. You know this, but I'm not paying for that.
No.
I pay for every other pay-per-view fight for real boxers. Mayweather is a real boxer, but this is not a real boxing event, in my opinion.
I'm out on this one too, Weekend Trav. I have better things to do with $19, like put a gallon of gas in my truck. So,
exactly.
Anyways,
we got some real fights though.
Yeah, let's talk about those real quick. Just a couple minutes to wrap up.
Yeah, I believe we have Charlo fighting this weekend.
Yep,
but
Jermell.
And even though, like, the guy, he's legit. He deserves to be talked about for sure because he's legit. He's in that division. He's in the 154 or 160, I forget, but he's there. He's a legit fighter. He's a legit contender. He's a legit world champion. He deserves big fights. He does. But I want to talk about Jaron Boots Ennis, who is a welterweight, 147, that's fighting in the co-main event on that Showtime card this Saturday. This guy, he deserves to be talked about because, in my opinion, he's up there in the conversation and should get to fight the guys that are likes of Errol Spence and Bud Crawford. That's how good this guy. I'm not saying he's gonna beat him. I didn't even say that at all. But that's how good he is, and he's under the radar, and nobody really talks about him enough. But Jaron Boots Ennis is his name. I'm telling you, he's the co-main event this weekend. If you get a chance, watch him because he's I don't want to say a future world champion. I don't know, because that 147-pound division is Errol Spence and Crawford, so that's a tough division. But this kid, he's only 24 years old. I think he does have the makings to definitely contend with those two. But when those two retire and finish off that division, I think he has the ability and the talent to run that division once they're out. So it's a great fight. And I think that it's worth tuning into this Saturday because you're also going to get, I think it's Showtime. And it's, if you have Showtime, I always say it's free. It's not free. If you subscribe to Showtime, you can watch this fight. It's not a pay-per-view fight, I don't believe. So you can watch this fight, but the main event is Jermell, you said, right?
Yep. Jermell Charlo and Brian Castano, I think, right?
It's a rematch. So
yep, it's the second time they fought. There's the second time they're fighting.
Yep.
So yeah, that's on that same card. That's the main event, but Ennis is on is the co-main, or not the co-main event, but the fight right before. I guess you can call it a co-main event. I don't know.
I mean, they're billing it as that. So yeah. Yeah. So I mean that's a great fight, but I wanted to go back really fast and touch on the pound for pound conversation, and just because like I want to like smack myself for this too, but Usyk, Crawford, Inoue, and Spence and Canelo is who we talk about in the pound for pound conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what blows my mind is that how are we talking about Usyk in that pound for pound conversation when Usyk's not even the best heavyweight in the world? Let alone pound for pound, he's not the best heavyweight in the world. The best heavyweight in the world is Tyson Fury, without a doubt.
But he retired. Maybe he is now. By default, he is, because Tyson Fury is retired.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any been retirement papers filed officially. But even before that conversation, they had the Usyk up there. So that's what I never understood about that. I do think Usyk is insanely good and will probably beat oh my gosh, Anthony Joshua.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But I don't understand that conversation though, how you can be in the pound for pound conversation, the best heavyweight,
because he moved up in weight class to do that. Okay, and he walked out with that belt. So got to give it to him. Belts, I should say. Well, you know, we don't make the official pound for pound list because there's no such thing as an official pound for pound list. It's just a bunch of talking heads talking about it and agreeing with each other or not agreeing with each other. And it creates fodder like this for people to listen to and argue and disagree with us and our opinions. There are opinions of saying, no, Canelo Alvarez is still #1 pound for pound. And people like, no, he's not. Terrence Crawford is, or somebody else is, or Errol Spence is because, you know, he looked impressive in one fight, you know, blah, blah, blah. That's where we're at. This is why we get behind the mic and in front of the camera and we talk about this stuff, because it's entertainment, folks. It's entertainment.
But what is without question, though, is that we are the #1 boxing, beard, bourbon podcast filmed in Orlando, Florida, specifically Laureate Park, specifically in a boxing gym on the second floor in our own private studio now on a Sunday, sometimes
Monday,
on a Tuesday, and we always drop it on a Wednesday now.
But today's Monday. Yeah. So, kind of got that.
Pound for pound rankings, they don't mean much to us right now because we are the #1 podcast.
Because we're the pound for pound top podcast with all those check marks, all those categories.
In the world.
All right. So we can share final thoughts. Let's wrap this one up.
Final thoughts are, you know what? I made the prediction that April was going to be the best month of boxing overall. And then what happens in May? We get a blockbuster at the very beginning of May. It turns out to be. So Hopefully,
Then it's
yeah, I know, and that's like the pound for pound best gets beat. How do you top that? You don't. But who knows what happens? So what a point is, boxing is exciting. You never know what's going to happen, and I think that this last weekend is perfect example of that because you never know what's going to happen. And I think that's why people tune into boxing because a lot of people used to think, oh, boxing is people already know who's going to win. Well, guess what? The most exciting, the biggest show, the biggest pay-per-view draw, the cash cow of boxing. He lost a decision in Vegas. I don't want to get into that either. Every single one of the judges' scorecard was the exact same, by the way.
Yeah, including the first 4 rounds. Really weird.
Not just the first 4 rounds. If you look at the scorecards, all 12 rounds, every single judge scored all 12 rounds the same. Huh. Tell me that's not suspicious.
Yeah,
the right guy won, thank God.
Yeah, I was going to say, usually we'd be suspicious if it was the other winner, if he was Canelo was the one that won. But yes, boxing is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get unless it's a Floyd Mayweather exhibition match. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get Floyd Mayweather, winning and making a lot of money. Boom. Okay. So that being said, we're going to go and wrap this thing up. And I'm going to say the usual and the following. First of all, I'm going to thank everybody. Thank you for watching. But that over there is Weekend Trap.
That there is B Money, aka producer, aka the man, the myth, the legend, B Money.
Okay, you should start with that. Gosh. All right. So thank you, everybody. God bless. Have a good one.